Jolly little elves with pointy hats, busy crafting toys and spreading Christmas cheer. The image is ingrained in every holiday tradition. But have you ever wondered where these creatures really come from? What if I told you the elves we celebrate today as Santa's helpers aren't what they seem? The truth about elves stretches back far into the darkness of ancient myth, where they weren't the cheerful, toy-making sprites we imagine, but creatures of shadow, mystery, and death. Before Santa, before the North Pole, elves were not helpers, but harbingers, beings tied to ancient forces of magic, misfortune, and even the dead. Join us as we uncover the terrifying and controversial truth behind elves. From their roots in Norse mythology to their disturbing transformation into Santa's helpers, this is the truth behind the elves, and it will change the way you look at Christmas forever. In ancient Norse culture, elves, known as Alfar, are not the cute and harmless beings we think of today. The term Alfar referred to more than just fairy-like creatures. They were deeply connected to nature, life, and death. In fact, elves were once fearsome entities with links to the afterlife and the supernatural realms. The Norse world was one in which beings of all kinds were associated with the natural world, death, and the forces beyond. The elves, as ancient spirits, were divided into two categories, the light elves and the dark elves. While the light elves were somewhat benevolent, dwelling in the realm of Alfheimr, the dark elves were beings of shadow, residing in the underground and often associated with the forces of death. These dark elves were not the merry toy makers we think of today, but creatures of the earth dwelling in the caverns and cracks between life and death. Dreadful and mysterious, they were said to be connected to the spirits of the dead. The dark elves were known for manipulating reality, weaving magic, and sometimes acting as servants to the gods of death. Some ancient texts even suggest that the dark elves were the souls of fallen warriors or lost souls, tied to the underworld and often depicted as malicious and vengeful. In the vast tapestry of Norse mythology, the boundary between life and death was thin, especially during the winter months. It was during this time, when the veil between worlds was the thinnest, that elves were believed to have a more direct connection to the dead. Elves were seen as intermediaries, acting as guides or guardians of souls. However, this connection was not always peaceful or benevolent. The Valkyries, the women who served Odin and chose which warriors would go to Valhalla, were sometimes described as being elf-like or even elven spirits. These warrior maidens would swoop down in the night to collect the dead, carrying them to the afterlife. There are chilling accounts of elves haunting the living, tormenting those who dared venture into their territories. Their magical abilities were not used to create wonder and joy, but to curse and bewitch. It is said that these elves could steal souls and trap the living in a state of death, a fate worse than simply dying. The idea that they have been rebranded as Santa's helpers might be an attempt to bury the darker reality of their existence, a reality tied to death, manipulation, and otherworldly power. Elves, particularly the dark elves, had ties to the gods of the Norse pantheon, not just gods of light and fertility, but those of chaos, mischief, and darkness. The trickster god, Loki, who was known for causing chaos and destruction, had connections to both the elven realms and the Jotunheim, the land of the giants. Some sources even suggest that Loki himself was a half-elf, a being who existed between the realms of the gods and the underworld. Loki's ability to deceive and manipulate is well documented in myth, and it's plausible that elves, as beings of great power, were sometimes exploited by Loki and other gods to carry out nefarious deeds. It was believed that elves could alter the fate of men. They were not innocent helpers, but powerful and dangerous beings who could bend reality itself. Their alliances with gods of chaos like Loki might have served a far more disturbing purpose, perhaps even as agents of death, spreading disorder and dark magic across the realms. The cheerful version of these elves we celebrate today may be a carefully crafted lie hiding their true nature as puppets of dark gods. How did creatures associated with death, shadow, and chaos become symbols of joy, magic, and gift-giving? This transformation likely began in the 19th century, when the figure of Santa Claus began to evolve, influenced by Clement Clarke Moore's A Visit from St. Nicholas and Thomas Natt's illustration. Santa's workshop, originally imagined as a magical space where benevolent helpers, elves, crafted toys for good children, was a drastic departure from the elves' dark past. But what caused this dramatic shift? Perhaps the cheerful, gift-bringing elves we know now are just a carefully curated facade, created to distract us from their terrifying origins. Some suggest that the Santa myth, with its seemingly innocent elves, might have been created to make us forget the ancient truth, that elves once served the gods of death, bent reality, and even controlled the fate of the living. If we look closely at the rituals surrounding Christmas, we find strange echoes of ancient practices that are eerily similar to the darker aspects of the elves' origins. The idea of gift-giving during the Christmas season might be rooted in pacts and tributes to supernatural forces, gods, spirits, or even the elves themselves. While most see elves as mere fictional characters of the Christmas season, what if there are more than just stories? What if they are still among us, shaping the holiday, our customs, and our beliefs? The elves you welcome into your home this holiday season are not the cheerful, harmless creatures you might think. They come from a world steeped in magic, death, and chaos, and their dark origins in Norse mythology reveal a truth far more unsettling than we can imagine. From their roles as spirits of the dead, to their alliances with dark gods like Loki, and their transformation into Santa's helpers, the elves have always been more than just magical beings. They are the remnants of ancient forces with the power to shape reality itself, and perhaps to this day, they still watch over us, pulling the strings of Christmas just as they always have. So next time you decorate your tree or hang your stockings, remember the true origins of the elves. Their dark power may still be lurking beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered.